From the UK, calling in is Kim. Welcome, Kim. How are you?
Hi, lovely to talk to you.
Yeah, and you?
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to share specifically, but I just got invited to do a debate in London, which I turned down. But and I haven't been to the UK in a couple of years. So, how's the weather?
Oh, it's rubbish. Of
It's
course.
rubbish. That's the UK that I love. But how can we help?
But we like it here. Yeah, I guess just based on what I called in with. I'm a theist, sort of. Well, no, I am, but it hasn't been for very long. My sibling died a couple of years ago.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. And I had very little community or support to be there for me. But so I found the church again. I was brought up in the church. I was a Christian as I was a child, and it was a huge part of my life until, frankly, I started watching you when I was about 18 or so.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But recently,
Well, let's see if we can fix it again.
I've been recently thinking about the fact that actually it takes a certain kind of person and a certain kind of privilege to be able to not be religious, because my church, the one that I go to weekly, has so many unfortunate people who are so desperate to have anything, have any kind of community, have any kind of help in the world. And I just think that it, honestly, with all due respect, that it takes any kind of privilege at all to be able to break out of that, that you can have your own help and any kind of community that you can build anything.
Yeah,
and I guess that's what I want to talk about today.
Yeah, and I definitely get that. It can be very lonely when you break out of it because there aren't a lot of good ready-made communities for atheists. I moved from Arizona to Austin.
As far as I'm aware.
Well, yeah, there are atheist groups in London. I'm almost positive of that. It was just going to meet up and finding Facebook and then kind of knowing what the keywords are.
I'm not in London.
Right. Okay. But I mean, if you can go to meetup.com, Facebook groups, I mean, there are a number of places, and it's easier now than it has been in the past to find, large groups of atheists, or a number of them. But I think too,
it rather got me thinking. I'm sorry to interrupt. Mm-hmm. It rather got me thinking that it just the whole world, so much of the world is so underprivileged and needs this religious community and this religious aspect just to get through the day.
Well, I agree with the needing community to get through the day.
Yeah,
I agree with needing community to get through the day, but I don't know what religion does that a similar community of people couldn't do. Right?
Well, it doesn't. That's kind of the point. It just doesn't. I mean, it could, but it doesn't.
I have a completely different experience with two different atheist groups. One, the Humanist Society of Greater Phoenix.
Well, with all due respect, you live in a lovely part of the world.
Well, also, I just Googled London Atheist Group, and considering I've been invited over the UK a couple times by a couple different atheist organizations, there's the London Atheist Activist Group, the London Atheist Meetup Group, the Sunday Assembly London.
But I'm not in... That London is not the UK.
I agree, but I'm just saying... Oh, I thought you had said you were in Northern London, but in any case...
And we're agreeing with you that community is important. I think I'm really just kind of asking the question, and why does it have to be a religious community? And it doesn't even have to be an atheist community. There are just so many ways to build a community around yourself and to join other communities. And Meetup is a great way to do it, whether you've got an interest in painting or walking or bowling or what, pick an interest. It's there in Meetup, and you can have not just one community, but 5, 6, 7, 8 communities, depending on your time and what you're interested in.
But aside from just the community aspect, don't you think that there is an element of spirituality that is far more is sort of mutually understandable than bowling?
I don't know what spirituality means. I mean, I can read the definition, but most people don't use that word in that way. So I'm not sure what exactly that means. I have, I mean, if you enjoy bowling and you're around a bunch of people who enjoy bowling, you're going to have a lot more fun. I don't know why that would be spiritual.
What do you think spirituality? Like, if you
I have no idea what spirituality. I have no idea what spiritual or spirituality means, because people use it in a and oh my gosh, can I finish answering your question?
Sorry.
I have no idea what spiritual or spirituality mean, because it means so many different things to many different people. But I don't think it requires any privilege to be non-religious. I don't think it's a choice. Now, I can participate in a religious exercise despite being a non-believer. But I cannot be convinced to believe because there's a community there. I'm either convinced that the propositions of that religion are true, or I'm not convinced. I can act like I'm convinced, and I can do it for participation, but there's nothing privileged about it. I'm the beneficiary of massive privilege: white, cis, male, able-bodied, intelligent, educated, middle class, etc. But my atheism is not because of a privilege, and it doesn't provide me with privilege.
It is because of a privilege, because you have the privilege to find another community other than the one you were born.
No. It is not. No, it's not a privilege to be part of a religious minority that's persecuted. How dare you suggest that all of a sudden I'm so privileged over all those Christians? That's a bunch of bollocks.
Do you think Christians are persecuted in the USA?
No, I don't think Christians are persecuted in the USA. I think they are. They're not.
Well, okay.
There's zero evidence of Christians being persecuted in the United States. They are the majority religion. The overwhelming people in office are Christian. Atheists can't hardly get elected anywhere. To pretend like I'm in some privileged position is absolute bollocks.
Yeah. There's only one atheist in Congress.
You're in the USA. Just that you're privileged because of the place you were born.
I already acknowledged that.
Yeah,
hang on, stop.
Stop. Okay.
I've already acknowledged that I'm the beneficiary of massive privilege, but none of that has anything to do with my atheism. Atheism is an intellectual position where I do not accept that a God exists. And becoming an atheist, being an atheist, does not add to my privilege. It detracts from it, because now I am less electable, less respected, less privileged because of my position.
Are you? Really?
Yes.
Yes, really.
Really, you face persecution because of your atheism?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. So Matt and I both live in Texas. Neither one of us are brave enough to put any atheist stickers on our vehicles, because I don't own a vehicle anymore, but I was going to put one on my Camry because it would be keyed in a heartbeat multiple times. I'm very careful about whether or not I'm out and who I'm out to here in Texas, because there are people who get physically violent. It's every single atheist I know is that way.
And to know your situation, of course not. Rather, my point was that people, especially people in the third world, people who do not have a way to break out of any sort of religion that they have been born into, there is no way out for a lot of people. Truth doesn't really matter.
No. Truth does matter, and what you're talking about is those people. Oh my God, Kim, let me finish. Those people in a third world country, they can be killed for publicly stating that they're atheists. Atheist bloggers are being killed in places like Bangladesh. So the privilege is with the religion, not with the people who are saying I'm an atheist. Those people get killed.
Mhm. And there are atheists who go to mosques, and hopefully their friends believe they're the most devout atheists, so that they don't get any backlash. Same with with any of the other religions. There are folks in Brazil who are atheists going to church because they don't dare not to, because they'll be ostracized in their communities to a point where they can't work or can't do anything else. There are a number of places where that's true. To say that we're privileged here to actually be out, yes, we do have that privilege. We've acknowledged that.
And while it may be a little more difficult being religious in the UK than it is in the US, you still are the majority. The majority of people, 59% in the UK, identify as Christian. Now, they're probably Church of England and not all that concerned with it. You don't have fundamentalists running around, and being an atheist is just a-okay. Nobody really cares all that much. But to suggest that being an atheist is somehow adding privilege is beyond ridiculous.
I didn't say it was adding privilege. I said that you get to because you're privileged. And I feel like you judge people an awful lot, which is unnecessary, for accepting a reality that you don't deem to be true.
A non-reality. I'm not judging the people. I'm judging what their claims. And if their claims don't have the merit of evidential support, then what other conclusion should I reach other than this isn't believable? And if somebody believes something that isn't believable, that's a problem.
Why?
Why? Because it leads them to take actions. Our beliefs inform our actions, and our actions have consequences. It determines how people vote. It determines how they treat other people. It is absurd to suggest that you can believe in a fairy tale as if it's real and that this will have no consequence on your life, especially if you're calling in to talk about how those people who don't believe in it are doing it from a standpoint of privilege. What a load of horse shit.
Yeah. And we have people
doing a standpoint of privilege, and I think you yourself would admit you're doing it from a standpoint of privilege.
Well, I've already admitted the mountains of privilege that I have, but I will not admit the privilege that you're asserting is actually true. If you could make a case for it, that would be really interesting. But considering you already believe things that you can't make a case for, I'm not too optimistic that you can actually make a case that I'm an atheist because of my privilege. But you're welcome to try.
Your privilege.
You're welcome to try to demonstrate. How exactly did my privilege allow me to become an atheist?
Because you get to move your brain in that direction. You get to understand those things and study those things in that direction.
But see, here's the problem with what you just said.
Don't get that.
Yeah,
so are you suggesting, hang on, because I want to be clear. Are you suggesting that atheism is the result of the privilege of being more intelligent than the other people?
No.
Well, that's what you suggested.
It's more...
So here's kind of my counterpoint to that is that we know that there are atheists in Muslim countries who go to mosque, who toe the line, and who, as I said before, we hope their friends think that they're the most devout Muslims there are. They are not out. They don't claim to be an atheist, but they are atheists. They don't believe in God. They do what they have to stay safe. And neither Matt nor myself have ever done anything. And I normally hate to speak for Matt, but I feel I can in this case. Have ever done anything to disparage or to say that those people aren't just as valid atheists as anybody else, and that we wish them the best of luck until it's such a time as they can be out atheists safely.
Unvalidate the people in those countries that are Muslim, the people that agree with their doctrine because they have to.
No. Nobody has to. You may be in a position where you have to act like you are. No, listen, Kim, let me finish a fucking sentence. You may be in a position where you have to act like you are in order to avoid consequences, but beliefs aren't a choice. You are either convinced that the proposition is true, or you are not convinced that the proposition is true. There is no other option, and you cannot force yourself to be convinced when you are not. You can, though, force yourself to act as if you're convinced, and you can force yourself to claim that you are convinced. But what your brain accepts or does not accept is not subject to volition.
Okay, what about people who genuinely want to believe in something? So they take themselves down this rabbit hole of, I believe in God, I believe in this, I believe in that, I believe in anti-vax theory. You will take yourself down the place that you want to believe in. I do believe, actually, beliefs are a story.
People believe things for bad reasons all the time.
That's an assertion. You need to make the case for it. You're saying that people believe what they want to. Now, I think that people are motivated. I think that people are motivated to want certain things. And because of that, they will make decisions about what evidence they do and don't accept that can ultimately lead to that. But simply saying, I believe X is easy, but actually going and saying, I'm going to just choose to believe X, I don't see that it's possible. Can you choose to not believe gravity?
Yeah, of course you can.
I don't think you can. I think that you don't understand how, I don't think you don't understand how belief works. And when you suggested that I have a privilege because I get to move my brain in that direction, well, so do you. And so does anybody else. Your brain is going to go where the evidence leads as long as you value the evidence more than comfort.
But I think it's perfectly reasonable. Well, not reasonable, but I think people certainly can say, well, I don't believe in gravity. I'm going to believe that this alien pushes me down where this simple level is, and they will believe that. And you can believe anything online.
Okay. I don't believe that that's actually true. And I don't think you stating that it's true makes it true. So you've made a claim that my atheism is a result of privilege, and you haven't defended it. Do you have some defense for the claim that it's privilege?
You've spent your career listening to people who don't agree with you and have gone down another rabbit hole. You must believe that this is true, that people can go down these ridiculous rabbit holes with these ridiculous ideas.
No, I don't think that it's a choice. I don't know how many ways I can explain this to you. I do not think that what an individual discrete belief is a simple choice, like I choose to believe God exists. I don't think that that is something that can be chosen. I think you are actually convinced or not convinced, and you can be convinced for good reasons and bad reasons. But I asked you how my atheism is the result of privilege.
I don't think belief is a choice. Well, maybe the initial belief is a choice, but in terms of convincing yourself of a belief, I think that's a choice.
I asked you how my atheism is a privilege.
Sorry?
I asked you how my atheism is the result of privilege.
Because you get to be an atheist. Of course, it's a privilege.
Oh my God, this is beyond stupid. I asked, how is my atheism the result of privilege? And you say, because you get to be an atheist.
Because you get to read, and you get to the benefit of science, and you get the benefit of truth.
So do people in Islamic countries who are atheists and aren't able to be out. How is that any different from
this
that?
Is why I asked you earlier if you were just saying that it was a benefit, that the privilege was being intelligent, being literate.
No, it's not.
That's what you just said. You said I get because of my privilege to be able to read.
It's not reading. You could read anything. Of course, it's not just reading. It's reading what you can proportionally understand as the right things to read.
Reading things I can proportionally understand. I don't know what that means. How is that a privilege, and why is it something that you can't do?
Of course I can, but
so you don't care about truth?
Of course I care about truth. Everybody cares about, or they say they care about truth.
I'd like to think people care about truth, but you just said that I'm privileged because I get truth, and yet you don't share my atheism, so you aren't privileged to have truth. So if you care about what's true, how can you possibly not be an atheist?
I think there are different ways of evaluating evidence, and there's no.
Yeah, is there a right way to evaluate evidence?
No, there is one right way to evaluate evidence.
Wait, hang on. You said no, there is one right way. Is there a right way to evaluate evidence or not?
Of course there is.
Okay, so if we evaluate the evidence correctly, do we come to the conclusion that a God exists?
No.
Okay, then how can you possibly believe there's a God?
Because I want to.
Okay, well, now you're just being dishonest, because you simultaneously said that a correct understanding of the evidence does not support a God belief, but you're going to go ahead and believe there's a God. You don't actually believe there's a God. What you believe in is belief. What you believe in is community. What you believe in is pretending that you actually are convinced, because you, in fact, Kim, are not convinced that a God exists. You just acknowledged it. You're playing along to get along. And this is why you claim that atheism is privilege, because you don't feel that you're privileged enough to be an atheist, because you miss the community and you want the community and you value the community of the religious people. So you will play along to have that community. And if that's your choice of how you want to live, that's fine. But it doesn't mean that you actually believe there's a God. And it doesn't mean that I'm doing this from a position of privilege. At that point, you're just saying that my privilege is to not be afraid. Well, I don't have a choice in that, and I'm not convinced that it's even true. But you can believe and you can act like you believe. Those are two different things. And you're free to acknowledge that if we evaluate evidence correctly, we don't come to the conclusion that a God exists. But that means you're an atheist. And you can be an atheist and you can play along with whatever religion you want for whatever reason you want. That's your choice.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I don't want to say now.
I didn't understand what you said, but
I
got to try to move on to some other callers. Why don't you think about that for a while? Call back next week and talk about it some more. Yeah. Maybe you'll come up with a better way to argue for this privilege thing. Maybe I don't know. But right now, I think it's really something we should just think about.
Yeah. And if you're getting something out of the religious community that you're currently a part of, that's fine. That's great. That's awesome for you, especially if you're in an area where that's the best that you can do. You can't find other atheists or other things to hang out with and create community. But that doesn't mean you have to believe. You just have to get along with the people in your community.
On that note, though, Kim, rather than putting you more under pressure or whatever, I'm going to let you go. Think about it. Call us back. We can talk another time.
Yeah.
But I got to try to get calls. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you, Jim and Matt. Thank you.
Yeah.